Welcome to this lesson on Common Gateway Interface scripting in Python. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you different ways of using CGI and how it integrates with Python programming. So what is CGI? Basically stands for Common Gateway Interface, and it allows any script, such as scripting in Perl language or Python, to output to your web or the HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. First, you must set up your web server to handle Python scripts or Perl scripts or CGI scripts. So with Apache, for example, which is an open source, this is easy. All we do is we add 2 lines in the configuration file, which is the add handler, and make sure we have the .cgi and .py extensions added to the Apache server so it recognizes whenever we run the CGI file. And another important thing is to make sure that the options exec CGI is also part of the configuration file in Apache. And I'll show you this, where these files are. In fact, I'll demonstrate a web server also so you can actually see where these files are and what they look like. So to set up a web server, there are several options available to us. One of the most easiest is setting up the XAMPP server. So the XAMPP is an easy to install Apache distribution containing MariaDB, PHP, and Perl scripting. The XAMPP open source package has been set up to be incredibly easy to install and to use. Let me in fact demonstrate this, and I'll show you the Apache configuration files as well, just so that you're aware that before you can run CGI scripts and use Python, we need to set up a web server. So let me get, in fact, to the internet here and just Google XAMPP. And as soon as you do this, the very first link that you get is the XAMPP installers and downloads for Apache friends. You can click on this link to download XAMPP, or you can use the sourceforge.net to download XAMPP as well. Either way, they're both the same. But I'm going to demonstrate the XAMPP installers page. As soon as I do this, it takes you to the XAMPP Apache, MariaDB, PHP, and Perl scripting. And you can simply download the XAMPP for Windows, for Linux, or for Mac OS. So it depends on your own operating system. You can simply download it. It will download in a zip file, and you can install it. It's a straightforward process. Once you have the XAMPP installed, this is what's going to look like. So it's going to open up a control panel for you. So it'll say XAMPP control panel and whatever the current version is. And notice 2 services are running, the Apache service, and then the MySQL is also running. So if you're working with databases such as MyPHPAdmin, for instance, and you want to store data in your database, you can have this option running as well. But the important thing is the Apache server, which is running at this point. So if I click on the config, for instance, and here's the configuration file that I just talked about on the previous slide, which is the httpd.config or .conf. If I click on it, opens up the notepad, and I can simply, let's say, find the CGI file that I'm looking for and just do a couple of times, and it will find everything that's related to CGI. So here's, for instance, the include exec CGI. So you want to make sure that this option, indexes follow symlinks, includes exec CGI, is available. And if I scroll down, I'll also be able to find other options within this file. But I just quickly wanted to demonstrate how you can actually get to your XAMPP server, download it, install it, and then configure your HTTPD file. All right, let me close this, minimize this to our slide here. All right, so once you have the XAMPP running and installed, what it does, it creates a local host for you. And on the web, you can simply navigate to your local host and take a look at your main homepage. And also demonstrate the actual web page or your local host after you install XAMPP. So the basics of CGI script. When you press equals, for instance, or the submit button on any button on an HTML form, you can have the code run a certain script. And this script could be a PY or a CGI. So you can run a Python program or you can run a CGI program. It depends on your own requirement. So for example, the form action is the tag where you would call that CGI script or the Python file. And the method you can use is either post or get. The form variables are packed into a string and then simply sent to the program. And Python has a CGI module that makes it very easy to extract variables from these forms or from any HTML-based form. So just like a module that we've been importing in Python, you can import the CGI module and then of course run your script. So here's the post and get method. We want to be able to receive some input to your Python program and then output something based on that input. The Python CGI library can find all the HTTP post and get variables. Specified resource, and in essence, get is simply requests data from a specified resource, and post submits data to be processed to that specified resource. So web Python program. When we run a Python program as a CGI script, the output goes out directly and the file must be executable. The first line we have to print are the HTTP headers. So whenever you're coding in Python or you're writing a CGI script, the first line has to be the header, which tells the browser also to read it as either text or render it as HTML. Any line after that comprises the actual HTML or text itself. So here's an example of that header file. So in this instance, first line is our header, and next is the required header that tells the browser how to render the text. For example, the print command. Content type is text and plain. And then it prints a simple message to the display window, such as print hello world. Alright, GUI elements in HTML forms. Obviously, just by creating a Python program with a .py extension doesn't really help as much, since we need to use HTML and CGI scripting as well. And at times, MySQL, which is if you wish to query a database at the back end where you want to get your products and display those products onto the web page. So the HTML widget type is simply the input type, and we use these tags. Variable holding input is the name. The default value is value. The widgets, one-line text entry, or you can have multiple line text area. You can create option lists that are scrollable horizontally or vertically. And you can also list out and create list or buttons. So with HTML, of course, the sky's the limit of what you like to customize your web page to. So before I end this lesson, I'm going to show you the actual web server running on my local host. So let me switch back to my XAMPP control panel. Is fine. Let me navigate to the web here and simply going to type localhost. Soon as I do this, notice the URL, it says localhost, and then the port number, and then of course my default page. If you have more pages set up, such as tutorial, bring you to that page as well. So on your local host or your web server, you can set that up. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you, in fact, how to run your CGI script and display that script on this web page. But it's important to have the web server installed and running. And these port numbers, for example, 8015 is when you install the XAMPP server, it asks you which port numbers you wish to use. And it's a straightforward process. So for instance, if I bring my control panel up, notice the Apache server is running on 8015. And this is the port number that is displayed on my local host. The 10443 is for the SSL or secure socket layer if you were using a secure website. For now, just have the XAMPP installed and make sure your local host gets configured properly, which allows you to run scripts. So I hope this helps, and let's move to the next lesson.